Hello and welcome to this virtual lab series on Entity Hierarchy, how to measure risk across your entire organisation. In this three-part series, I am going to demonstrate how to model and filter, generate a map, assess and monitor so that you can better respond to the risk across your enterprise. Welcome to Chapter 1, Model and Filter. We will be creating the dependency model and entity type filters. Here we are looking at an organisational hierarchy model created during process workshops. You can see that the top level organisation is effectively a school with 3 departments, each with their own applications they need to provide a learning experience to their students. We can see from this model that each of these business applications roll up to the departments, and each of those departments roll up to the top level organisation. We won't look too much at the syllabus planner application in this series due to the fact it is rolling up to all 3 departments, but do keep it in mind for further discussions later. So if we consider the dependency model from an entity class perspective, we can agree business application rolls up to department and department rolls up to organisation, and organisation is the top level or the root. This is what an entity class dependency model might look like, and this helps enforce the rules of the entity hierarchy. Before we can confidently build entity type filters, we need to review the platform data. We need to validate the baseline for entity scoping so as to understand how the ServiceNow platform has already been configured and what information is available for GRC to consume. With the focus defined starting at the organisation level, we review the primary company record and can see the departments and business applications are all well connected. This is the dream. We can also see that there are names available for department heads who will be responsible for or own each of these entities when we bring them into GRC. We want to check the same for business applications, as ownership is really key to successful risk management. Before we can build the dependency model, we need to check the entity classes are all set up. Most come out of the box. The GRC workbench is where most of the modelling is done. Notice that there is no starting point. We need to define the organisation entity class as the root. A quick refresh ensures this is now configured as expected, so we can build our dependency model according to what was defined during the process workshops. Department is downstream of organisation. Business application is downstream of department. Once configured, in the workbench, the parent class is set on the entity class record. It's very simple. Now here are some entity types I prepared earlier. One for each of the target classes. Each of these need their entity filters to be created so entities can be generated. Starting at the top, organisation is focused on company table. Condition is for primary, and we just need to override the entity class assignment so this is set to organisation and become our root. All other company records that might come into scope later would be classed correctly as company. We can set default owner, but I am going to ensure that we only create if the owner field is not empty. Once created, we submit to get back to the entity type. We do the same for department and set the condition against Swando. We set the owner field and we do not create if it's empty. We also sync the ownership. The final entity type is where we actually want risks and controls to be generated. So this entity type is mapped to control objectives and risk statements. Condition to apps for Swando. And notice there is no entity class auto-populated. That is because the entity class rule is not defined. So let's set that up quickly. This will provide consistency and is very simply based on table. Now when we create a filter and select that table, the entity class is already set for us. We set ownership field, sync the ownership, and do not create if it's empty. A quick review of the entity type mapping confirms everything is set to generate entities. Thank you, and see you in Chapter 2.